Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video, and today we are here back on F1 2020. What do you mean what's up with my voice? Oh, alright, yes, we have got a few more options of what to do with our voice, so I thought I'd play a little trick there. Sorry, the upload is a little bit late because I was watching the crazy intense Premier League finale. That was pretty incredible. But now, back to the main point. We're back on F1 2021, my team career mode, and today we have the Mexican Grand Prix, and I'm going to confirm I will not be doing a season 2, mainly because after I finish this season, I'm going to push to finish it. I have something quite fun planned. A few of you may already know, but I will make it a bit more clear a little bit later on down the line. But let's move on now and see what we can do in qualifying. Here we are at the beginning of Q1, and I'm about to finish my first run, and as you can tell, the game may look a little bit clearer. That is because I'm on Xbox Series X. As I'm saying that, I've literally nearly spun, and that's pretty much ruined my lap already, so I'm going to definitely have to go out again and try and improve. Meanwhile, Robert Schwartzman now will finish a lap. I expect him to be way ahead of me across the line, P19, and he's actually behind me. Well, that does say a lot, doesn't it? But as we now move on to the end of the session, I have enough fuel for 2 runs in case this one doesn't go well. And I've gone very wide at the left-hander, and that has ruined my stadium section, meaning I'm actually losing time, but I will gain a bit since I didn't spin this time around. But we've only gone up to P16. We are nowhere near safe enough, so we're going to do another lap here. We get the stadium section right, and now, surely, we will find the improvement to get into Q2 once again this season. To the line, we'll take a short route. And did we make it? If we look to the steering wheel, no, we did not. And that is a bit of a shock. I'm actually getting used to getting through into Q2. But this time around, we are not through. We're P17 and P18, just about behind Giovinazzi. Hopefully, I can make up for it in the race. Let's move on and see the full grid.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Perez, Leclerc, Sebastian Vettel, and Tsunoda. Fernando Alonso, Stroll, Verstappen, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Antonio Giovinazzi, Sainz, Raikkonen, the owner driver, and Russell. Gasly, they've taken a grid penalty. Ocon, Mick Schumacher, and Nicholas Latifi. Mazepin, Ricciardo, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Norris, and Robert Schwartzman. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Well, for the second race in a row, we've seen quite a few grid penalties that have pushed me further up the field. So now, I'm P13, and all of a sudden, I have a few ambitions of actually scoring a few points here today. So, I'm going to do what I can to get the best start possible and get myself in the top 10, and we'll see what we can do from there. I have no idea about our race pace. We had a few upgrades come in, but one of them for the aerodynamics actually ended up failing. So that will halt us a little bit in Sector 2. But now we're lining up on the grid slot, ready for another Grand Prix, and we're revving up to 5 red lights here for the Mexican Grand Prix.
Keep an eye on the lights. The start sequence will begin as soon as the grid has formed.
Five red lights, and they are out, and we are underway here for the Mexican Grand Prix. and I did get a much better start than Carlito there. We're already up into P10, but now we're going to need to try and hold on the straight line. I did put quite a high wing setup, so we're going to suffer here a little bit. Carlito will move back ahead of us, but into turn 1, I'll go around the outside of him, and I'll even have a look at trying to get ahead of Stroll. No, we'll tuck in behind and try and overtake the Ferrari, get a better exit, and now we're all over the back of Stroll. Meanwhile, at the front, Checo will lead the Grand Prix ahead of the 2 Mercedes and then a Ferrari in P3 of Charles Leclerc. Meanwhile, back to me. I'm looking to make that move on Stroll and get up into P9. Meanwhile, Verstappen and Alonso are going wheel to wheel. They may have made a little bit of contact. I'll have a look at the Red Bull, but I decided to really stick behind him and tuck into P9. What a start for me. Let's hear about Max.
Car ahead has some minor front wing damage, but is maintaining pace.
And there you go, confirmation that Verstappen now has a bit of damage to the front wing. Meanwhile, someone at the front over there definitely has a bit of damage as well. Ignore my corner cut there. We're going to ignore that nice and easy. But now, I'm just going to take my time and try not to damage my wing. I'm going to have a look at the Red Bull round the outside of him, and it will turn to the inside at the stadium section. And I'm up into P8 now. Vettel will nearly brake test me, and I had to brake there. So now, he goes into the pit lane. Hamilton also in the pit lane, crucially, for the World Championship. Meanwhile, I'm getting re-overtaken by Verstappen and Carlito. They are now going wheel to wheel into turn 1. Verstappen with damage on the front wing will just about pull ahead of him on the straight. Carlito locks up a little bit. I make contact with him, and I'm going to try and re-overtake the Ferrari, allowing Verstappen to get away, but I'm now back up into P6, and hopefully I'll have the pace not to drop like a stone through the field. Meanwhile, we see Leclerc, Vettel and Hamilton all in the pit lane, and we look to our race leader, Sergio Perez, in the lead ahead of Valtteri Bottas, and then Yuki Tsunoda in P3, Alonso in P4, but Fernando may have damage on the front wing, so we have to watch out for that. Verstappen, with front wing damage, has decided to stay out, and he is so quick right now. It looks like he doesn't have damage at all. That is how much of a field spread we do have. Meanwhile, Verstappen will attack Alonso. I will be attacked by Carlito. He will go down the inside of me into turn 1, and Sainz moves up into P5, and I did not give him too much resistance there. Mainly because I know that he can take me towards Alonso and maybe a bit closer to Verstappen, because we know Ferrari are quite quick. Maybe they're quicker than a Red Bull without a bit of the front wing. Anyway, we move on to lap 5 now. I'm running in P7 ahead of Ocon. Stroll is a few seconds behind. He is not my issue, but Verstappen is now attacking Yuki Tsunoda for P3 here. Verstappen will try round the outside of the AlphaTauri. Yuki wants to defend the position really hard here, and they're going wheel to wheel through the first 2 corners, and Verstappen will finally get ahead. Yuki Tsunoda really gave him a hard time, and he still is actually. They're nearly wheel to wheel. Yuki Tsunoda will try round the outside of him, but Yuki did not have the front end grip to make the move stick there. So Verstappen moves up into P3. Meanwhile, because of their battling, now me, Carlito, Alonso are all in the battle for the podium. And Fernando, I think, also has a bit of damage, like I said earlier. So I'm going to get ahead of him as quickly as I can, and I'm up into P6. But I nearly spun. Oh my word. That was a brilliant save. And hopefully I won't be under pressure from Alonso, but now that has ruined my opportunity to try and join these two, as Carlito moves up into P4 and he will hunt down Max Verstappen. Yuki Tsunoda dropping like a stone, and oh no. No way, no, hold on. No, this could literally be a classic of a Grand Prix. Literally, no way, we cannot have an issue now. I need to now keep calm and try not to do anything silly here. But now, I'm anxiously waiting to hear if I'll actually be able to race in this one.
It looks like we're experiencing an ERS software glitch. Good news, it looks like the fault has been fixed.
Oi, what do you mean? No, mate, this again. We have another ERS issue, like in Japan. But this time, instead of not being able to use the ERS, I'm now stuck with it. You've got to be kidding. You said you fixed the issue, but they have not. Like, what is this game? Anyway, I'm now going to have a look at Tsunoda. I'm stuck with my ERS open, and I'm frantically asking about my car condition, just to see if they fixed it. All the battery that I saved up to overtake the AlphaTauri has now been used up.
fixed, but we will keep monitoring
And
it hard.
finally, they fixed the issue. Like, they took their time. What were they doing? Why do I even have an issue in the first place? I picked a Ferrari engine for a reason. Meanwhile, talking of a Ferrari engine, Carlito now will have a look at Verstappen. He'll go down the inside of the Red Bull into turn 1. He couldn't quite get wheel to wheel with him. And now, Verstappen will stay ahead of him for now. But the Ferrari should get a much better traction than the Red Bull here. DRS enabled for Carlos Sainz. Can he get the move done on Verstappen? Not quite. Meanwhile, we look back further down the field, and Pierre Gasly has a huge chunk of damage on the front wing. He's getting overtaken by Mick Schumacher here. And that is absolutely awful news for the AlphaTauri. Meanwhile, if you're wondering about Lewis Hamilton, here he is. We're in the helmet camera, and he's all over the back of the Williams. And oh, is he porpoising? He is porpoising. Okay, that's a funny joke. But now down the inside of the Williams, and he gets the move done. Talking of Mercedes, though, Valtteri Bottas will break all of the fans' hearts here by taking the lead of the Grand Prix from the Red Bull. And that there shows how strong the Mercedes really is in this career mode. Meanwhile, more action down the field, and that's the GOAT Nikita Mazepin making an overtake on Antonio Giovinazzi. I've never seen anything like it. Mazepin just made an overtake. We are literally seeing everything. Anyway, 3 laps later, and I'm still stuck behind Yuki Tsunoda. And it's becoming a bit of a desperate situation for me here. I need to get ahead of the AlphaTauri, but I don't have the traction from the final corner. And I don't have any ERS either. So this time around, we're going to pit in. I'm going to give up trying to overtake this guy, because I just cannot get near him. Unless I can now. I'll have a look down the inside. But nearly got killed there as he closed the door on me. But now I've had enough being behind this guy. I think we're going to have to take action. I wanted to try a one-stop and be a little bit enthusiastic about my strategy, but I don't think that would work. It just seems to be too many laps here in Mexico, and I'd have to do a good 20 on the medium or the hard tire, and I don't want to use the hard tire at all. So let's go into the pit lane, convert to a 2-stop, and see what we can do by pushing. So in the pit lane for the soft tire, and that is a pretty slow pit stop. Come on, team. We need to be quicker than that. And now, coming out of the pit lane, that pit stop has actually come back to bite me, as now I'm behind George Russell and Giovinazzi. Great. As if I needed more traffic. So I have to get ahead of them quickly now as I go into turn 1 on a new fresh set of tyres. It feels so much better to be on the new tyres here. So we should be able to get ahead of Russell very quickly. And look how slow the Williams was at a turn 3 into the slipstream. I don't even need the DRS, but I do use it anyway. Around the outside of the Williams and up into P11, nearly making contact. And next up ahead of me is Giovinazzi, and I need to make these moves done quickly. Otherwise, Yuki Tsunoda will get away. So I'll try around the outside of him here. And that, look at the grip. So much better than the Alfa Romeo. And I'm up into P10. But now, we move on later on here. Checo did an undercut on Bottas. Bottas is in the pit lane right now. Checo will need to get ahead of Tsunoda. But at the moment, it seems that the overcut is not as powerful as Checo's overtaken Tsunoda and taken back the lead of the Grand Prix. Get in. Valtteri Bottas has some work to do now, but the good thing for Mercedes is the fact that he's on the soft tyre and he will have a huge advantage on the Red Bull. Meanwhile, just ahead of me, Carlito looks to get ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Carlito on the fresher, quicker, soft tyres, going into turn 1, wheel to wheel with the Mercedes. And now, oh, he locked up! He locked up into turn 1. Hamilton and Sainz nearly making contact. They do make contact, and they make contact again! And Carlito has chipped a bit of the front wing, which is now lying on the track. And that is absolute heartbreak for Carlito, knowing that he could have got a podium today, and now he's got damage on the wing and he's going very slowly, holding up Hamilton, meaning I'm going to try and get ahead of him and the Ferrari. But that is absolutely heartbreaking for Carlito, as he was driving one of the races of his life. Anyway, Valtteri Bottas sets the fastest lap, and we can see why. He's all over the back of Checo again, and once again, the dreams are crushed for all the Mexican fans, as now Bottas retakes the lead of the Grand Prix. Meanwhile for me, I'm running in no man's land a little bit. I'm a few seconds ahead of Hamilton, the culprit who ruined Carlos Sainz's race, and Raikkonen just went into the pit lane. So now I'm basically going to have to try and keep up the lap times. Meanwhile, Verstappen, who got damaged earlier, is now attacking Esteban Ocon, but funnily enough, he's now going very slowly. And this is due to the fact that they made contact at turn 1, so things have gone bad to worse for Red Bull Racing and Verstappen. They are not taking advantage of Lewis Hamilton here today, and he has to go in the pit lane again. But now we're finishing lap 15, and finally, Yuki Tsunoda has gone into the pit lane, not for the hard tyre, but for the soft tyre. And at first, I'm a little bit confused on why he didn't go for the hard tyre and go to the end, but however, the hard tyres are quite slow. And now, talking of Yuki Tsunoda, he's going to have a go at Esteban Ocon here into turn 1. They literally are brushing tyres through the right-hander. And look at that, wheel to wheel. I think they nearly made contact again, but this time around, Yuki Tsunoda should get the move done on Ocon here. Down the inside, Ocon will fight back on the outside line. And he's really holding up Yuki Tsunoda, which really does help me out, because I'm ahead of the AlphaTauri. But Ocon seems to be really struggling on the soft tyre, and that's leading me to think that he may have damage. But either way, that is not the problem for Yuki Tsunoda. He will now go down the inside again, and this time he finally gets ahead of the Alpine. What a nice little battle for a whole lap between the two. But as I thought, Ocon did have damage to the wing as Hamilton went into the pit lane for the hard tyre. Ocon will now fix the front wing, which is a little bit unfortunate for him, but he goes on to the hard tyre, probably to the end. But now we skip over to lap 20. I'm still chilling here. I've got a whole battery of ERS saved, but Yuki Tsunoda is pushing like a madman on those newer soft tyres. He is literally now 2 seconds behind me, and I'm now ready to defend from the AlphaTauri when he does catch up to me. But we all need to remember that this is not for a P10. This is for literally a podium here. But anyway, Lewis Hamilton makes a move on Mick Schumacher, and he's already making more progress up the field. He will be very important towards the end. Meanwhile, Bottas now goes into the pit lane again, this time to do an undercut on Checo. I don't think Checo will really be racing for the lead anyway, especially when he's getting held up by Nikita Mazepin, as we saw from my teammate's POV. But now, moving towards the end of the lap, Yuki Tsunoda's all over the back of me. And no matter how much battery I will use, Yuki Tsunoda is so quick on the straight line. And he will move up into P3, which is a little bit of a shame for me. But I know that we will come back at him later on. But we'll have a little look down the inside. I'm going to be very careful here, as a lot of drivers seem to be damaging their wing at turns 1, 2 and 3. Anyways, we took back into slipstream, and I'm going to have a look down the inside. Yuki will try and move before the braking zone, and nearly making contact, but I did manage to get ahead of him, and I held him up quite a little bit there. But now into the pit lane I go for the final time, and I have to use the medium tyres. So in hindsight, I really should have used the mediums on this stint, but oh well, there's only so much I can do, and I can only hope that Tsunoda will not move onto the soft tyres later on. It's another bad pit stop. But anyway, we're behind Hamilton. That is a big issue. We were not meant to be behind Hamilton here today, which now means that Yuki Tsunoda is in great danger of losing that podium. And talking of losing a position, Kimi Raikkonen is being overtaken by Lewis Hamilton around the outside at turn 1, and Hamilton is making a recovery drive incredibly. But now, here we are in the middle of lap 24. I am simply trying to keep up on the pace. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton has lost the rear. Oh my word, he's gone into the wall. And Kimi Raikkonen has been collected. A huge mistake from Lewis Hamilton. And now we have a safety car. Where did that come from? Lewis Hamilton has completely dropped it. Look at that, no grip on the hard tyre. He tries so hard to save it. He oversteered and overcorrected, and he's gone straight into the wall and has taken out Kimi Raikkonen. Meanwhile, as that was happening, Yuki Tsunoda, Bottas and Checo have all missed the pit lane, but thankfully for them, they've gone ahead of the safety car, meaning they are still under Delta and won't lose out too much. I will find this as a great opportunity to go into the pit lane for a set of the soft tyre. I'm going to push like crazy to get onto the podium. So here we go, switch onto the soft. It's a much better pit stop. Doesn't really matter, we're in the safety car, but everyone is under Delta. So it's really worked out perfectly for me, except for the fact that I'm now behind Verstappen, who has decided to stay out. which is a little bit confusing considering he's on the slower hard tyre. And Bottas has decided to stay out as well. Why are they staying out? Go into the pit lane. Checo, go into the pit lane. Use the soft tyre. Never mind. He will also stay out. Will Yuki Tsunoda make the same mistake? I hope to God not. If he wants a podium, he really should pit. He is in the pit lane. So one of them are actually smart. But Sergio Perez had a prime opportunity to switch onto the soft tyre and try and challenge Valtteri. I don't know why he didn't go for it. And now, to make matters worse for the Red Bull, he has 3 lapped cars to overtake before he can get anywhere near the Mercedes. So really, not going into the pit lane is a really bad idea from Red Bull. I don't know what they were thinking, but for me, I'm on the soft tyre. I've got Verstappen and Tsunoda ahead, and I have quite a task of overtaking them both to get the podium.
Let's make sure those tyres are up to temperature, and remember, there is no overtaking until the timing line. Stay in position until the green flags.
So here we go then, the pressure is absolutely on. I need to get the restart absolutely spot on if I want any chance of getting on the podium. We are now underway again in Mexico, and I did get a decent traction, but Verstappen has completely flown away. My high wing setup really is not helping me here. So instead of attacking, I'm actually defending, as Alonso will try down the inside. We have a lot of blue flags as well, so we have to watch out for those back markers, but I did manage to stay ahead of the Alpine. But now, into turn 3, I just have to make sure I stay calm and catch up to Verstappen. He's being held up a little bit by the back markers. Giovinazzi clearly wanting to ruin my race here. Same with Lando Norris. They're really getting in the way of me and the Red Bull. As I just about slide, I'm under so much pressure. We need to stay calm here. Meanwhile, Russell will also get out of the way. Meanwhile, for Valtteri, he remains in the lead ahead of Checo. And really, I still don't get why Checo did not go into the pit lane. He could have been hunting down that Mercedes right now. Meanwhile, Tsunoda doing a good job here in P3. But now, I will now try and get ahead of Verstappen here on the straight, in the slipstream. There's no DRS yet, but we don't need the DRS. We're going to try and challenge the Red Bull of Verstappen round the outside. It will turn to the inside, and on the newer soft tyre, we're going to get up ahead of the Red Bull, which is absolutely momentous. And I'm up into P4. Next up ahead of me is Tsunoda, and oh no! Ocon has got an engine failure. The engine has completely died, and he will be retiring the Grand Prix. And he's hit the Aston Martin. He's spun around, and Mazepin, of course it would be him, going into the back of the Williams. Giovinazzi is also out, and that means we have another safety car. Another safety car. What on earth is going on here in Mexico? We have 18 drivers remaining, and now this has given me a great opportunity to be right behind Yuki Tsunoda. I know I'm going to struggle at the beginning of the restart due to my lack of straight line speed, but if I can keep it together, we will be able to overtake Yuki Tsunoda in time, just like we did with Verstappen. Here we go again. We will have 3 laps of racing, lap 34, lap 35, and the final lap. We have plenty of time to overtake Yuki Tsunoda, but now, again, I have to stay calm. I nearly spun in the last safety car restart. How about we don't do that again? Here we go. Valtteri Bottas will get going at any minute now. Yep, he's gone. So now, any minute now when he will cross the line, we are underway again in Mexico. And now, 3 laps to the finish. Anything can literally happen, like we saw with Ocon. So now, we need to stay sharp. Verstappen will now try and attack me down the inside. But again, I know I'm on the better tyre. There's no pressure to really lose a position. I've just about stayed ahead of him. Meanwhile, Yuki Tsunoda tried to overtake Checo, and he may have damage. There was a little bit of contact between the two of them. But now I'm going to have a look. Tsunoda will go defensive and round the outside for the podium place. Can we hold it all the way around the outside of the AlphaTauri? Yes, we can. It will turn to the inside, and we're on the podium. Incredible stuff there. We're in P3 ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, and Max Verstappen is losing time behind him. They're losing a lot of time, and I'm going to ask again,
They're on old mediums. Their tyres are 7 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. The car behind has some damage to its front wing, but pace is unaffected.
Well, that will tell you all you need to know. Yuki Tsunoda has damaged the front wing at the very climax of the Grand Prix, and that is an absolute heartbreak for AlphaTauri, as it was so close to getting Yuki Tsunoda's first ever podium in Formula 1. He will now retreat to the pit lane, and that is a real shame. Meanwhile, Pierre Gasly will try and overtake the Red Bull of Verstappen. He gets the move done. Ricciardo will also try and overtake him, and Verstappen stays ahead. We'll just ignore the fact that Verstappen literally went through him. We'll ignore that. But now we move on to the final lap, and Valtteri Bottas is still under pressure from Sergio Perez. Can Checo make a late overtake to win his home Grand Prix? That would be just incredible. But again, I don't think he'll be close enough. But for me, it has been an absolute thriller of a Grand Prix. A roller coaster of emotions, and you really could not know what would happen. But I'm going now into the final sector. After one hell of a Grand Prix, we only have a few more corners to navigate. Valtteri Bottas will extend the championship lead to 50 points as he wins the Mexican Grand Prix. But for me, it's an incredible moment where I will claim my first podium in Formula 1.
Well done, good finish. You stepped up and achieved what we asked. Good job.
It's a performance to be proud of from our Mexico City Grand Prix winners. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Taking care of the car was absolutely vital today. It's been obvious all weekend that the pace was there, but look at the attrition rate we've had. They would have been very concerned about any minor anomaly towards the latter stages of this Grand Prix.
After an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team, and they certainly deserve it.
Wow, what an incredible race. I am literally speechless as I'm on the freaking podium. That there, guys, will end today's video though. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.
More points for Valtteri Bottas, further solidifying his lead at the top of the table. Now, let's discuss, Ant. Who would you say is a contender for driver of the day?
Well, Crofty, Daniel Ricciardo would have to be my driver of the day. It's less about what he did right, but how little he did wrong. Perfect driving.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. No change in the top spot, but with today's points, their hold on the lead is getting weaker. Meanwhile, good work from Aston Martin this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula 1.
Really means to live life